You're listening to the How to Talk to Girls podcast, where you'll learn step-by-step how to meet and seduce beautiful women, whether you're looking for one night of fun, a week-long fling, or a long-term relationship. I'm your host, Trip, and the episode starts now. Hello and welcome back to another episode of the How to Talk to Girls podcast. I'm your host, Trip Kramer from tripadvice.com. On today's episode, we're going to be diving into something that I haven't really dove into before, and I have someone here to help us out. His name is Rob Judge. He is another dating coach, and we're going to be diving into just a few tips. It's nothing crazy. We're not going to go too deep or dive too deep into this, but just a few tips for you and things to remember for what to do when you are looking at your social media, mainly Instagram, a little bit of Facebook, and how you can use it to post good pictures or good stories, and just a few little hacks that you can do when you're posting this stuff so it actually gets the women that you meet interested as far as continuing to talk to you. Of course, this is not 100% necessary, but I think it's a really cool concept and a really cool idea for you to use when you are posting stuff to your social media if you're someone who already posts things. So you're going to hear some really cool kind of psychology a little bit behind how these tips work in terms of being able to post things that get women a little bit more interested in your life and what you're doing, and it can be very helpful. So you're going to have Rob Judge explain this stuff to you, and we're going to dive into it a little bit. Like I said, this is a shorter episode, a shorter interview. He just had a few things he wanted to share in terms of what you can do for your profile. This is more for, again, your Instagram profile, or Instagram account, I should say, your Facebook a little bit, but this doesn't really reach far beyond that. So this is not for online dating. This is not for Snapchat. Okay, this is not for TikTok because those are different types of social media platforms. So it's more specific to picture and video oriented kind of social media where people can check up on you and see you and research you and so on and so forth. I know that it can happen with TikTok a little bit, but that's a whole different platform than what we'll be discussing on this episode. So I hope you tune in here and take a little notes. Check it out. Here is the episode with Rob on your profiles. What's up, Rob? How you doing, man?
I'm doing well, thanks. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Good to have you on the podcast. This is the first time I've had you on, right?
Yes, and it's a pleasure to be on. Like I said, I've been a big fan of your work over the years, so it's an honor to be included in the podcast roster.
I love it. I think it's really funny. You said before this, you're like, "Yeah, I was a big fan of your podcast," and I was like, "Wait, what?" And then you said, "Dudes Talking About Chicks," which was my podcast 10, or at this point, 11 years ago. So you were listening to that one. How did you find that? Like, how did you come across that one?
You know, I'm not even sure. Someone might have recommended it to me, and man, it's been that long ago. I feel old at this point, but yeah, I remember listening to that, and it just had a great dynamic. It had a really fun sort of vibe to it, and yeah, and I learned. I picked up a couple things, so it was definitely like I don't listen to a lot of podcasts or content anymore in the dating space, but definitely that was one of them that I actually did listen to and I enjoyed very much.
That's so cool. I love that you were listening to that. Well, now you're a guest on the next podcast, which is much more in depth, way more episodes than the last one. That's why I had to ask you, like, wait, have you been on before? I have to ask people that because there's been a lot of episodes, or I'm thinking maybe I have, but I know I've had your partner Tony on a few times. So maybe that's where I got confused because you guys work together, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Or we'll say not Tony, but Bobby.
Bobby, yes, that's his.
That's how most people know him.
Nom de plume, yeah.
Yes, exactly. Cool, man. Well, you're on today, and we're talking about Instagram and a little bit of Facebook. So we're basically talking about social media here and how to, I would like to say, and correct me if I'm wrong, optimize your social media or work on your social media so it helps with getting more women interested. Do I have that right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, social media is one of those things that we all use, day to day. And yet a lot of guys aren't cognizant of how they can be optimizing it, using it to their advantage, because in a way, it allows you to do a lot of the heavy lifting of attraction or staying on a girl's mind or preventing a girl from flaking. And you can do so much of that heavy lifting through social media.
Cool, cool. So what do you mean specifically? Like, how can you do the heavy lifting through social media? I mean, we all know that everyone's on social media, right? This is our second life here. It's like we have our real world life, and then we have our Instagram accounts and what we're doing on there, what we're doing on Facebook and TikTok dances and whatever you're doing on Snapchat, all that stuff. But tell me more about that.
Absolutely. And it's an interesting time right now because of the smartphone, because we are all like addicted to our phones, is back in the day and even, maybe a little bit even prior to your podcast, maybe 10, 15 years ago, there was like, when you went out, you got a girl's number, it was almost like you could pause the game. When you're a kid, you pause the video game and you can come back to it later. You get her number and you're not competing with a whole lot. She's going to her job. She's not maybe interacting with that. Maybe she's interacting with a couple of her coworkers, but there's a pretty safe bet that when you hit her up a couple of days later and suggest the date, that she's going to say yes. But nowadays, you're competing against her phone, right? And she's going on social media. And now, even if guys aren't directly talking to her or directly vying for her attention, they're putting up posts. And when guys kind of do this, a lot of guys, some guys have just kind of figured this out, how to do this just naturally. And now all of a sudden, even though you guys had a great interaction the day before, or you guys had a great conversation on Tinder the night before, her attention could start waning because of what she's seeing on her social media feed. So that's what I mean when I say that this can do a lot of heavy lifting. If you want to be the guy who's taking up a girl's attention, you don't want to be the guy who's losing attention to another guy on a girl's social media feed.
So you're saying that you keep her attention by working on your social media. So in between you guys spending time together, she can continue being attracted to you. Is that what I'm hearing?
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's exactly. It's a perfect summation.
So what have you found of this in terms of either yourself or the clients that you work with, in terms of how much this has helped them? What have you seen be the effects of working on this? And of course, then we'll dive into it and talk more about how to do it.
Oh, absolutely. Well, I know my own personal dating life. I mean, I live with my girlfriend now. She's downstairs. But there was a point where we had a little bit of a rocky point, and we were broken up. And to get back together with her a lot, because again, we weren't talking, we weren't texting. So my only touch point with her was through social media. So using social media effectively allowed me to kind of start getting back on her mind, winning back over her attention, getting her to the point where she was amenable to talking to me, meeting up with me. And a lot of it later on, now that we're back together and things are good, she was saying like, yeah, you were on my mind, because even though I was trying not to look at your Instagram page or, look at your social media, it's almost like the siren song. So obviously that in terms of my own life, that kind of confirmed a lot of the stuff that I've been teaching my clients. But even with my clients, it's like a lot of the times, the way it is as a dating coach, a lot of guys come to you when they're already in a damage control situation. It's like kind of like we're the Cupid's janitors, right? Someone screws something up and we're called in to kind of clean it up. And usually one of the first things I'll start doing is putting out things on a guy's social media, because it's a very nice indirect way to start getting some of that momentum back when guys are in a damage control situation.
Got it. Okay, cool. So how do you do it? How do you optimize this? And I'm guessing this probably just helps in general in terms of, when you first meet someone, just them, not just them keeping up with maybe you posting, but just seeing your overall presence in your profile and seeing what's on there because they're stalking you. So I'm sure it all connects to each other, right?
Absolutely. Because what's the first thing a lot of us do when we first meet someone? We go look for them on social media. It's two types of people who admit they do that and people who lie about it. But, whenever we meet someone for the first time and we're really excited about them, we always go and see if we can figure out like, oh, let me look at their social media profile. It's almost like when you hear about a restaurant and you go check the review online, it almost confirms or it just gives you more information about what you want to know. I mean, we're an immediate gratification society now because of smartphones. So we're looking for that immediate gratification. So, when you're meeting women, and like you said, like I kind of sold it on the damage control aspect of it, but there is that aspect of social media that it's just good proactive game. It's just a great way to project your identity, to convey yourself in an attractive way where you're putting out, this content that is going to be appealing to to all the women on your, that follow you or are looking at your social media profile.
Okay, cool. So how do we do this? What are some of your biggest tips for guys to do this and make their profiles awesome? And then we'll talk maybe posting strategies and things like that.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. And I know a lot of guys listening probably think, oh, well, I don't have that many followers or I don't get that many likes on my posts. And what I found is that stuff doesn't really matter that much because we're talking about the unconscious attraction mechanisms in our brain, like the primal aspects that make us feel attracted. And, we're not hardwired to feel attraction because of a like button, right? Or how many likes someone has. We're hardwired to feel attraction based on these, things that can elicit these primal urges, these things in us that make us go have sex with someone, buy things we don't need, that kind of thing. So you want to apply those same strategies or those same ideas to your social media. One example would be like the idea of maybe scarcity or pre-selection, this idea that other women are interested in you, that your time is valuable, that she's not the only person who's on your radar. And even if, she is the only person on your radar and you're not a guy necessarily who's going out to and has a couple girls, that he's working on or that kind of thing, you could still convey that in a way that is also honest. Like you don't have to put up anything that you're not photoshopping anything or hiring girls to take pictures with. But what you can do is that you can post pictures that imply that there are women in your life. One example, and this is kind of like a very broad stroke example that Bobby and I give a lot to clients or whenever we're talking about this, and we need to kind of give the elevator pitch of how to do this, is you put up a post of 2 drinks. And one of those drinks would be like a, stereotypically girly drink. It would be like an appletini, those lime green appletinis with a little garnish on it. And then maybe a beer. And you put those 2 drinks by the bar and take a picture of it. And you just put an ambiguous caption like cheers or night out, letting the hair down, whatever it is. You leave a little bit of that gray area for a woman to wonder. And what's so amazing about that is if a woman has any sort of spark of attraction for you, if she's thinking about you at all and she sees that picture, there's not enough in that picture to where she feels like, oh, he's with another woman or oh, I can never have him or oh, he probably has a girlfriend or a wife. But there is enough in that picture where that hamster on a wheel in her head is going to start spinning, right? Where she's going to be like, is he out with a woman? Is it like, what is he doing? Why is there 2 drinks by this bar? And now that uncertainty, that where she's kind of mulling these questions over in her head. If you think about every girl that you fell for, you became infatuated with, it was always a girl that you couldn't get off your mind, right? So this is kind of like a funny way to hijack that mechanism in her brain where she can't get you off her mind.
Got it. So you're saying you want to be a little bit vague or you want to be cryptic in some of your posting. Is that right?
Exactly. It's almost like you think about it. You want to give her the breadcrumbs to make her own story or to, project this movie in her head where she wants to take it. But you want to give her just enough. It's just like sprinkling those breadcrumbs so that you lead her to whatever sort of fantasy or story she wants to have in her own head.
And this is specifically on stories?
It doesn't necessarily have to be, and it's funny, I should be careful using that word story with social media. But you absolutely... But you can do this in your stories, and you could also do it on your posts. Either one. The idea though is that whether you're doing it on your stories or it's just a regular post, it should contain some narrative detail where she can project her own story, not the social media story, just like a story in her head, where she can project that. Maybe we'll call it a narrative in her head, and like I said, like where you put that hamster on that wheel in her head, where she's wondering and she's asking herself those types of questions.
What other examples do you have for something like this?
Okay, I mean, even just posting a picture of you out somewhere doing something, and if you can get someone else to take the picture for you, or I've even done this where I went for, I live out here in Scottsdale, Arizona, and I went for a hike, and I brought a tripod with me, and I took a picture, right, on the tripod. And the thing about even with that, if a girl cares about you enough, she's gonna wonder, think about you when you have a crush on a girl. You can't stop thinking about a girl, or even like you're just slightly interested in a girl and you see on her social media, suddenly she posts this picture of herself doing something like a hike or something that could be like something she would do with a guy, the first question you're going to ask yourself is, who took that picture? That's a question that, like, a natural question that comes up whenever we see someone doing something. Like if it's on a selfie and they're out somewhere, there's always that implied other person. So now you're like, so it's even by like just considering, and a thought exercise I would give any guy to do this well is think about the last time something on a girl's social media sent you into a frenzy where you were either Googling stuff or trying to figure out what was going on, or you couldn't stop thinking about her. Those are the breadcrumbs that I'm talking about. And there's so many applications of this. If you can get a little creative and you start thinking about it, how to really spice up, your posts or your stories.
Got it. Okay. So being a little bit vague, a little bit, what's he doing? What's he up to? Who is he with? What's going on? So so almost as if you make it so it's blank in their head and they're coming up with stories. They're trying to fill in the details.
Exactly. Jason Capital, he actually, it's funny, I kind of spoke at one of his seminars about this exact topic, and he came to me afterwards and he was like, it's almost like you're giving her a blank canvas for her to paint her own picture on. And I thought that was a really good metaphor for what I'm trying to explain is, it's essentially you're giving her just questions, you're inviting her to ask, to come up with her own fantasies or questions or whatever, process she needs to go through in her head to get infatuated with you. You're just helping her along that process.
Got it. Okay, cool. What are some other techniques or tips in this area for your social media?
Okay, another really easy one that I give a lot of times to clients when we're starting out is even something as simple as posting a picture of, if you're a guy who usually dresses in like t-shirts and jeans or whatever, posting a picture of you really dressed up. I even one time had a guy wear a tuxedo. It took a nice picture and we came up with some caption that made it seem like he was going out somewhere or doing something cool. And even that, think about you, like I said, like when you're interested in a girl and suddenly she's all dolled up and she takes a picture of herself and it's maybe like a Thursday or Friday night, you're like, well, where's she going? Who's she going with? Those are the kind of things that a lot of guys just don't consider. Who's on the other end of their phones looking, consuming their posts and how they're interpreting that. When you're just posting like, the selfies or whatever, or you're just posting, these boring kind of cliche social media posts, you don't invite any of these breadcrumbs. You don't bring any of that into it because they're obvious, they're very predictable.
Okay, cool. Awesome. Do you have any tips on what you should do for making your profile look good? In terms of I guess we'll start with Instagram. I know Facebook is sort of similar too, but Instagram is more, here's all my pictures, where Facebook's a little bit more involved than that. But what tips do you have for that, for making your profile look awesome?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And that's something that, I think the aesthetics of your pictures do matter. There are apps that you can download like that. There's an app I used for a while called Pixar, which you take a picture of yourself. It's like PIX, I think TR. But what it does basically is it automates color correction and it kind of like does a couple little adjustments to your face. And sometimes it totally screws pictures up and it makes you look really weird. But a lot of the times it actually adds, it kind of punches your pictures up a bit. But even just being cognizant of the way you're taking pictures, trying to think about, okay, like what's going to look cool here? Why, and not just like in terms of like framing the picture and the photography of it, but also what you're photographing, like pictures of guys that are dressed up or wearing cool clothes or doing cool things. There are things that you can do to make those pictures, those are sort of like, I guess, artistic things that you can consider when you're setting up like a photo shoot. Really quick too, another just quick thing that I use all the time is with phones now, they shoot video in such high depth. Sometimes if I'm doing something cool and I want to get a cool picture from it, I won't even try to take an actual picture. I'll go and I'll film a video in like 4K or whatever, and then I'll scrub through it until I find like the perfect still, screenshot it, and then that's what I'll use as a picture post.
Nice. Okay, cool. That's cool. I like that. What else? What other tips you have for us? What do you tell your clients when they're trying to get good in this area?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, a lot of this, it's hard to give to say okay, like everyone should do this because like so much of your social media presence is predicated on who you are as a person, right? Projecting your identity. So a post that might work for me might not work with, for another guy. But the thing I think is that social media is really good for is also showing the layers of your personality. Bobby and I talk about this a lot. Something that keeps a woman coming back is when she keeps learning new things about you. I'll give you a really quick example. Not a lot of people know I play guitar, right? So I remember one time I posted although that probably is pretty obvious to anyone watching, but on my social media, I'm not one of these people that's always posting, videos of me playing guitar or doing anything with the guitar. But I remember right around the holidays, I spent like about a month learning this like version of Jingle Bell Rock on the guitar. So I posted a video of me playing that song like on my Instagram, and I noticed I got a lot of positive responses from a lot of women, some women I hadn't talked to in a while, because now I'm showing them a different aspect of my personality. So if you have some hidden talent, or it doesn't necessarily have to be something that you've worked years on or that you're a master of, even if, say, like you're trying, I don't know, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for the first time, and you take a picture of yourself in a gi and you post that, and like now all of a sudden people are like, well, I didn't know he did that. Oh, like I didn't know he knew how to do this thing, or he was into this or whatever. Now it's like I said, like the more you can stay on a girl's mind, the more that she has these new questions about you, the more that you're winning social media.
Right. And that's clearly kind of what your whole strategy is here. And I like what you said before is, what are some aspects of your personality? What are some things that you do that are interesting? If you have anything that's interesting that you can, in a sense, show off, or at least show, I don't mean show off by trying to be cool or act like you're cooler than other people, but you show it off. You literally present it on social media. Don't keep that hidden. If you have some sort of hidden skill or talent or not even something that you're interested in, I would say, I remember I was getting into rock climbing about a year ago, and I just had a little stint with it. I just was trying it out. It wasn't something I was necessarily going to dive hardcore into. I just wanted to do it for a little bit and just see how it was. And I'd post about it on social media. I wasn't good, but it was just me climbing around, having fun. And I got a lot of responses from that, right? And that wasn't necessarily something I was good at or anything that I was, really, really super into at the time. But it was something that I was doing, and it's just different. No one saw me ever doing anything like that before. So it kind of cut through the white noise and showed a different side of me and what I was doing.
Definitely. That's I think what captures so much attention is suddenly when we see someone who we thought we knew a lot about, or we kind of typecast, okay, he's this type of person, he's that type of person. And then now all of a sudden we see them doing something that challenges that stereotype. And I think that's very good. That's where a lot of this cognitive dissonance, and where, when people's attention gets focused on something, that's the reason why.
Right. Exactly. Cool. What about putting anything in? Do you have any tips for anything in your bio and Instagram, or anything on your, I don't know, people even focus on this anymore, you're about on Facebook? I guess we'll stick more to Instagram. Anything with that?
I always say, you really just want to keep it simple. You want to downplay it a little bit. It's even like when I talk to guys about creating their Tinder profiles or whatever, the more you try to logically put in your accomplishments or, things about you, the more that's going to backfire. You're better off a woman finding out about that kind of stuff. You're better off like downplaying, your bios, that kind of thing. I mean, obviously you should have something in there so you don't seem like a spam bot or you don't seem weird. But I usually advise guys to kind of downplay it a little bit.
Okay, got it. And let the pictures more make up for it, in a sense.
Exactly, because a woman's never going to become infatuated with your bio, but she will fixate on your pictures, or she will fixate with this sort of like movie trailer preview that you're giving her through your social media feed.
Got it. Cool. Awesome. Nice. Anything else to share in this area, or did you think you covered it, or anything else you want to share with this?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, one of the things I always point out with a lot of this stuff is so much of good social media is in the subtext, right? Like a lot of the times when a guy does something cool, like for instance, like skydiving, right? That's like a pretty common thing that's like out of most people's comfort zone. And we go skydiving, we jump out of a plane, and that is cool. So we post a picture of us with it, like skydiving or whatever. And we think that's cool because it's outside of our comfort zone. We're doing it for the first time. But what that kind of sub-communicates to a lot of people on your social media feed is, oh my God, this is so out of my reality. I have to take a picture of it. And that's like a broad stroke example. And that trickles down to like, whenever you see people posting these like really blurry celebrity selfies. You know, they see some celebrity on the street, take a selfie with them. The problem with that is that the subtext is like, oh my God, like this is so important to me. This is such an important part of my day. I need to post this. So what's way better is to put that stuff in the background. And like a quick example is like, say you travel somewhere cool. Say you go to Thailand, right? And like, yeah, like going to Thailand is outside of most people's comfort zone. You don't want to take the picture where you're like, you get off the plane in Thailand, you go to the first tourist trap thing you can find, and you take a picture there. Like, you know, like, I mean, the equivalent of like, say, like the Eiffel Tower of Paris. Instead, what is way cooler is when you show a picture of you doing something. So say you're working remotely and it's a picture of you on your laptop with something cool about like that that's very distinctly Thailand in the background. Maybe it would be like a ladyboy or something. But you know, it's something that people will be like, oh, that's clearly he's in Thailand. That's cool. He's traveling. But it's almost like, hey, like I'm doing this post because I'm working. You know, I'm working remotely, or I'm at the school. Like I said, the best cup of coffee ever, or like, oh, they have the coolest beers here in Thailand. But like the focus isn't like, oh my God, look at me, I'm traveling somewhere. Instead, it's like, hey, look at this cool thing, and oh, by the way, I'm in Thailand, or I traveled to this place, or I have this cool thing going on. So that's just something to keep in mind, you know. And sometimes guys do have cool things going on in their life. They have a cool car, they have something that they want to show off. But the issue is if your post is like, hey, look at me in this car, the subtext of that is, wow, this guy must have it's so little going on in his life that he needs to like, this is like the highlight. He needs to like show off this car. Versus like if it's like some song comes on the radio and you do a story like, oh, this is the best song ever. And it just so happens that you're in this cool car. The girl's going to see, everyone's going to see, wow, okay, he's in a cool car. They're going to get that. But now it doesn't come off as try hard. It doesn't come off like you're like broadcasting, oh my God, like, you know, I have this cool car. Look at me, everyone, you know?
Yeah, you're just casually taking the phone and whipping it by the Ferrari logo on your steering wheel and over to the radio.
Exactly. You know, but I mean, even without the logo, if you just take a picture of the interior of a Ferrari, you don't need to see a logo. You like everyone knows, okay, this is a nice car. This guy's doing well for himself. That's cool. He's in this car, and hey, I like that song too. You know, that REO Speedwagon song that he posted on his story or whatever. You know, like so it's just like a better way when you are trying to show things that are cool in your life. Don't make them the focus, because people then are going to be like, oh, like, you know, this must be so important to him. His life must be so vacuous otherwise that he like this is what he wants to show everyone.
Yeah, got it. Cool. I like it. Awesome. These are some good tips. Definitely. I think that, yeah, it's definitely important to not be overtly showing off kind of what you're doing. People are not dumb. They see right through it. You know, if you're just posting stuff that's all about, you know, what you have and things like that. But again, I think on the other hand, it is cool to, if it's like a skill or something like that we were saying earlier, like it is cool to show that or depict that or portray it in some way, you know. So
absolutely, yeah. You know, and there is like a slippery slope there where you have to figure out, okay, like, yeah, because like playing the guitar, like making a song about you just playing the guitar, that's fine, because that's something you worked hard to do. You're offering some value. You know, people like that kind of stuff. But if it's like a cool car, or it's like, you know, this awesome apartment that you just moved into with the view, like you don't want to just be like, oh, look at my new apartment with the view. Instead, it would be way cooler if you were like, oh, like cooking dinner during coronavirus, and then it just so happened that the view of this cool apartment would be in the background. You know?
Yes, exactly. Cool. Nice, man. I like it. So where can guys find you if they want to work with you? What do you work with guys on?
Sure. Yeah. A lot of the time I spend from day to day is working with coaching clients, whether it's over, Skype or Zoom, or it's in person. So sometimes in person, I do set up guys' social media profiles, or, if guys want to work on Zoom or Skype, we can troubleshoot a specific situation, or we can just do general help in certain areas. So yeah, I mean, again, I'm so bad at plugging myself, but if anyone wants to find me, I'm at robjudge.com, or just shoot me an email at rob@datehottergirls, and let me know what you're thinking, and we can go from there.
Love it. Cool, man. Awesome. Well, yep, definitely check him out. And Rob, thanks for being here and sharing some of your information. Definitely haven't dove really deep into what to do with your Instagram and your profile and things like that and social media. So thank you for sharing. Appreciate it.
Yeah, Trip, absolutely, man. I appreciate it. And I like it's been nice to socialize during this whole coronavirus epidemic. It's nice to actually talk to someone in the outside world, you know?
I know. It's just crazy. It's crazy. Well, hopefully guys can can take some of this information and use it for their advantages while we are, not really doing much with in-person stuff and we're doing more digital like we were talking about. So totally agrees. Good to talk to you and see you in sort of in person, at least face to face in a way.
Yeah.
And we'll hopefully have you on again in the future.
Awesome, brother. Thank you so much again. I appreciate it.